All right, welcome back, guys, for another conversation with John. We are here to talk about episode 4 of All Her Faults. So let's get into it. All right, so we starting off episode 4. We have the guy we figured out from episode 3 that was arguing with Carrie, and starting off, he's in a gas station getting some mac and cheese, um, and he's getting the mac and cheese or whatever. And on the news, there's a report of Milo missing, and so he's kind of just distracted by watching that because clearly, um, this is he's involved in the situation, so he's distracted by that, and he's watching the news or whatever. And so he ends up buying the mac and cheese or whatever. One of the boxes is open and noodles are wasting everywhere, and the cashier asks him like, "Do you want to replace the box?" But he's so distracted by watching the TV that he's not really paying attention to her, and so he ends up getting the mac and cheese and leaving. And he goes and gets in the car, and there's Milo. So at least we know that Milo is still alive. They ain't killed him yet. And so the next thing we come up with, this is day 4. So now we're going to start getting more information about Detective Alvarez and his family. So this next scene, day 4, it starts off with the detective and his wife talking about getting their son, and I don't remember the son's name, treatment. And and yeah, the detective is, in my opinion, a good parent. He's showing what a good dad can be, in contrast to Peter and Archie, who ain't worth a damn, as fathers in this show. So he has to take care of his son for the day because his wife has to go to work. So their son is with him throughout the day, even though he has to work and stuff like that. He's still taking care of his son and playing with him, and they start singing and whatever, just giving him time and attention or whatever, and just being a good dad and being there for his son. So while he's watching his son, he's still working the case, and he calls Jenny because they want to show them a picture of the guy that they found that was at the race with Carrie. And so he shows a picture of him to well, he asked Jenny, can he show the picture to Jacob? And he asked Jacob, well, do you recognize him? And Jacob is like, no. So then after that conversation, he ends up calling Marissa and kind of giving her an update on the case or whatever. Um, and they're talking about whether they're going to release this man's image on the news or whatever, because Marissa is concerned, like, okay, well, if you guys release his photo to the public, then he's going to um he's going to know that we're looking for him. Right now, he doesn't know that we're looking for him. The only person's image that we've released is Carrie. So he's going to know that we're looking for him. And she's afraid that if he knows that he's being searched for, then maybe he might do something to Milo. And Milo, and she asks the detective, does he think that that's the right thing for them to do, to release the image of the guy on the news? And the detective's like, well, yeah, I think that is the right thing for us to do. So they end up deciding to release his image on the news. And through the course of them talking, like, again, Detective Alvarez is a good dad, so his son is playing in the background. And he has, I don't want to say he has something. He may be like autism or something like that. Like he has a mental disability, so Marissa can hear him in the background, and the detective is trying to calm him down because he doesn't want to be insensitive. Marissa's missing her son, so the fact that his son is like in the background making noise and stuff like that, so he's kind of cognitive of that situation. So we move on to um, the week before all this happens. Um, Detective Alvarez and his wife are trying to get their son into this special school for kids with disabilities. So the admissions counselor, or this guy's on the board, and there's like it's a lottery system, and there's only one spot available for a child to get into school. And so the admissions counselor calls Detective Alvarez and telling him about a friend of his whose child has gotten arrested. Um, and needs to help getting him out of trouble. Like he got arrested by the police and he had a Tylenol bottle full of Xanax. And so he's like asking Detective Alcaraz, like, what's kind of going to happen? He's like, well, I mean, it's probably just going to be something where I don't remember exactly what it said, but it's not going to, be anything he's going to get in a lot of trouble for, since it's probably his first time offense or whatever. And so the admissions counselor is like, basically like, I mean, handle this situation. Like, he's asking him like, well, has the because the he's saying the kid says that it's just that the pills are Tylenol. They're not Xanax, which they think that the detective believe that the pills are. And he's like, well, the kid is saying that it's just Tylenol, and have they sent the pills off to be tested to see exactly what they are? And Detective Alcaraz is like, well, no, they're still in the evidence. And so he's basically wanting Detective Alcaraz to get rid of the evidence. And Detective Alcaraz is like, you want me to give a rich kid who already has all the advantages in the world another advantage? And the admissions guy was like, well, yeah, basically, I mean, if you help me in this situation, basically your son will get the final slot that's needed in this program. And Detective Alcaraz was like, basically, man, fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'm not about to lose my job and my pension to help this rich kid. Like, fuck you. And at that point, I was like, yeah, he's a good man, Savannah. He's a good man. Detective Alcaraz, he's an honorable guy. He's a good father, and he's a good police officer. He's just trying to do the right thing and take care of his family and take care of his son. So then we got Esther Ash. She pops up at the police station, and Esther starts filling in the police like, well, yeah, this is Kyle, and I was his foster mom, the guy that was on the news. So she starts telling them Kyle's backstory or whatever, how he ended up coming to live with her. And he she was like, she didn't think that he would do a thing like that. And just like how after he graduated, turned 18, he was not in the system anymore. So he didn't live with her. He went to go stay back in his hometown or whatever. And he just kind of was started getting into trouble and stuff after that. And she just didn't think that he would do anything like kidnapping Milo. So the police are just like, what happened? Yeah, the police is asking her more questions about him. Um, and basically she was saying that he was a good kid, and like after he left her, he went to go work, do construction. And so the detective Alcaraz was like, in talking about her, he was like, well, and I missed some parts, there's a lot going on, but he was like, basically, you were describing Kyle as a troubled kid, who's struggling to make money and struggling to make ends meet. And you don't think that he has anything to do with this, but of all the people, places in the world, he ended up, like Milo ended up being at your address out of all the addresses in Chicago. And he is a child of an ultra wealthy woman, Marissa Irvine. So you think that there's that big of a coincidence in the world that he would end up at your address, and an address where he lived for a year before a year. Like, there's no way that this is just a coincidence. Like, he got something to do with this. And then she got this duck look on her face, like probably thinking that, yeah, they are, most likely he does have something to do with this. So after that, then Kyle becomes a suspect of interest, and they pull his records and find out that he had been to jail and all of this. And yeah, they pull his records and find that he had been to jail. And the whole time that he's been in jail, he has no visitors. The only visitor that he has is Carrie, a week before he gets out of jail. And so it's very weird that out of all people, she is the person that came to visit him a week before he gets out of jail. So they ended up going to the jail to talk to his old cellmate. And they start asking him questions about anybody come to visit him and stuff like that. And the guy's like, well, yeah, I kind of saw her on the news. Is that the girl that y'all talking about? And And he was like, yeah. So he's like, well, tell us what you thought of her, basically. And he was like, well, looking at them, she didn't look like a girlfriend based on the way they were interacting, or the way that Kyle was acting after she left. It was looked more like a sister or a cousin or something like that. That he was interacting with, not like a girlfriend. So after the detective leaves, they decide to check Kyle's old neighborhood, because it's also where Esther said he went, and the guy in jail said, they asked him, like, where do you think that he would go at this point? He was like, well, probably into his old neighborhood. If he's running out of options, a place to be, that's probably where he would go. So they ended up checking in his old neighborhood, because they're trying to figure out, like, how are him and Carrie like know each other. They checked like old yearbooks and stuff like that to see if they're in like the same grade or something like that. Esther had told him that he was doing construction work for money, so they start checking like with drywall companies in the area, and they ended up finding a drywall company in the area, and just trying to connect the dots on how he may have known Carrie, because maybe like she had a dad that worked for the drywall company or something like that. So they ended up finding a company and going up there. But of course, this is in like a bad area in Chicago. These type of people don't want to talk to the police, so they decide to just like wait until somebody leaves. So they're waiting for a little while, and then this woman leaves the job, and they're like, well, we are just trying to find a little information. Do you know somebody by the name of Carrie, whatever Carrie's last name? And she's like, well, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. And so when she gets on the bus, she pulls up the article about what's going on, and she sees the article about Carrie, and she's like basically like, Josie, where did you come up with this name from? So then we find out like Carrie's actual name is Josie. And I feel like this woman may be her mom. I mean, she looks like she could be possibly be her mom, maybe like an aunt or something like that, but that's her mom, or some type of related, I feel like, to Carrie. Now, it doesn't tell us how Kyle and Carrie know each other, but now we're getting a little bit more clues on what is possibly going on in with with these two, and connecting more dots. So then Detective Alcaraz goes and updates Marissa on everything that's going on, and says that it's probably going to be a ransom situation, since her and nobody in the family has any connection to Carrie or Kyle. And he asks her like, okay, well, he asked her, speaking of a ransom, like, do you, with somebody trying to ransom, you guys trying to handle this on your own is not a good idea. Do you think that Peter may have gotten a call for a ransom or something like that? And she was like, no, but we know that Peter did get a call for the ransom, but Peter ain't saying nothing because Peter is a piece of shit. And detective asks, like they're talking and stuff like that, and he asks him about like why Peter feels the need to always help people. He's taking care of his brother and sister, and Marissa kind of goes into the story of um just him needing to feel needed, and everything that happened with the accident when Brian got injured, and just needing to take care of his siblings after that whole situation happened. Um, like the accident happened when they were 10. I think Peter was 10, Leah was 6, and Brian was 4. And so they just kind of started talking about that. And then the detective tells Marissa that Kyle knew Esther, and that he thinks that Milo's going to be okay because Esther was like the one person that was nice to Kyle and took care of him. So of all the places to send her to, he sent her to the one place where somebody would like comfort her in her time of need, because that is the comforting that Esther gave to Kyle. So then we go to Detective Alcaraz, and more about his story, because a lot of this episode was about him and his family. He goes to pick up his son from like, I guess in a sense, from school. I was gonna say daycare, but not daycare, from school. And so I think that his son had probably wet himself, because when he went to hug him, like, I think he touched him and then he hugged him again and he was wet. And so the next thing is him with a diaper. So his son had been sitting in his own pee all day. And so that goes back into Detective Alcaraz's need to want to take care of his son. He's very afraid that his son is going to be taken advantage of, and people are going to mistreat him. And that's the one thing that he was talking to Marissa about, because she asked him about his son and he was apologizing. And Marissa found out that his son is actually 13, and that's one of his fears, like that eventually that his son is not going to have somebody to take care of him. And that's why him and his wife wanted him to go to this special school for people with disabilities. So that led to that night, them getting home, and Detective Alcaraz, we get this scene, him opening this medicine cabinet, and I guess he has the thought, because the Tylenol relates to the rich kid in that story, that he ends up going into the evidence locker and getting rid of the evidence that would have this rich kid being innocent, and he texts the admission counselor guy like it's been done. So then we go to they've released Kyle's picture into the news after Detective Alcaraz talks to Marissa, and they ended up going back to the gas station that Kyle was at in the beginning of the episode, and they let him see the video footage of him being outside in the type of car that he was driving. And so the detective is like asking them, do they have any other footage or anything like that? And she was like, no, they don't have any footage from inside the store. So he asked, well, what did they get? And he was like, well, he ended up getting like some mac and cheese. And I'm gonna go all the way back so we can, because this is how good I feel like Detective Alcaraz is. Like, he's very observant and he pays attention. So in this picture, you can see there's two different types of mac and cheese. There's the kind in the cup that you put in the microwave, and then there's the box kind. And so he's noticed that, and so he asked the cashier, like, which kind did he get? And she's like, well, he got the box kind. And so they're like, okay, well, they couldn't have gone far, because that's the kind of mac and cheese you have to cook on the stove. So he knows that they're somewhere in the area. So he ends up, like, what happens? I don't remember what happens, but he's like, oh, across the street, across whatever, there's some like rental cabins. So he ends up finding out that they're staying in a rental cabin over there, and they get into the cabin, and of course there's nobody there. They find some blood, and then they ended up searching the lake. They end up searching the lake, trying to see if there's maybe a body or anything out there, and they ended up finding a body. And while all this is going on, Detective Alcaraz is on the phone with his wife, and she lets him know that he ended up getting into St. Mark's, the school that they're trying to get their son into. So him stealing the evidence worked out, and I just hope that it don't come back and bite him in the ass. And that was the end of this. That was the end of this episode. So my thoughts on this episode and what we know so far. We know that Kara's real name is not Josie. We know that Kyle and her know each other some kind of way. How they know each other, I don't know. And we know that Detective Alcaraz is risking his job for the sake of getting his son into a better school. Now, should he have done that? No, but I can respect it, because out of all the men on this show, he's actually the only man that is doing what it takes, I feel, to be a good dad. Peter ain't shit. He just ain't shit. Archie ain't shit. He never wants to sit there and take care of his son. Is always making excuses and putting the shit off on Jenny, like, this your child, this ain't my child, so you figure it out. So yeah, more to come. And this has been another conversation with John. Until next time, when we come back for episode 5. Peace.